Hi, I'm Andy Lintott. I own the Carp Company, and I'd like to give you a few tips on how to get your fish through the winter safely.
Why can the winter be so difficult to keep our pond fish?
Short answer to that is it shouldn't be. The vast majority of our pond fish, koi, carp, sturgeon, that sort of thing, come from Eastern Europe or Asia. They're quite adept at living through the ambient temperatures that we get.
Then tell me, Andy, why do so many pond keepers struggle in the winter?
It tends not to be the ambient temperatures that cause the problem. We try to keep our fish in the perfect environment, generally using filter systems and aeration. And if we're circulating water when the weather temperature is really cold, we can cause a rapid decrease in temperature. And that can be the problem rather than actually the temperature itself.
What can we do to help reduce these temperature changes?
I mean, in an ideal world, pond keepers could all have heater systems fitted to their ponds, not necessarily for heating the ponds, but for removing those fluctuations that we create. But that's not very sensible for most pond keepers. And so the answer is reduce the amount that the temperature can affect your water. And to do this, insulation is a real key. If you're circulating water through cold air, insulate your pipes, insulate your filters, insulate your UVs. And maybe if you've got a raised pond, even consider insulating the sides. Insulate the surface of the pond. Cut down those temperature changes as much as you possibly can. And aeration is another big thing. Very few ponds need aerating at really cold temperatures. The water's very capable of holding a lot of oxygen in it. And it's only really the heavily stocked ponds that require this additional aeration at this time of year. So consider turning off your air pump. I wouldn't suggest doing it if you're worried about oxygen at all, and an oxygen test can really clarify whether you can do this. But if you're circulating freezing cold air straight through your water, you immediately chill your water down. If you can bring your air pump into somewhere warm, then great. But most ponds, you can turn off your additional aeration at this time of year. If you have a pond pump in your pond, then raising it off the bottom, sort of 18 inches, can help create a bit of a level of warmer water at the bottom that's undisturbed, so your fish can go and sit in that, and that's quite a good useful tip.
Should you really switch off your water filter in the winter?
Only if it's really, really cold. If you're running your pond water through a filter when you've got sub-zero temperatures, there is a chance of creating something that we call super chill. If your water temperature drops below 4 degrees centigrade, you can start having problems with your fish. But with the mild winters we now get, very unlikely you really need to turn your filter system off. You're much better off turning your flow rates right down, and as I say, insulate your filters, insulate your pipes, and just try and maintain a flow through your filter, which will help prevent any pipes freezing or any dramatic incidents like that.
I hear so many comments online about not feeding fish in the winter. Should I be feeding my fish in the winter?
Yeah, there are a lot of pond keepers out there who stop feeding their fish completely when the water temperature reaches below a certain level. I differ from that thought completely. Fish feed, or should be able to feed, when they want to feed. Fish in the wild will feed on and off throughout the winter. If our fish are looking for food and want feeding, they get fed. And that might mean once every couple of days, once every 3 days, depending on temperature, but they still get fed all the way through. Some fish require feeding very regularly. Things like sturgeon, they're a cold water fish. They feed throughout the year. Golden Orf, they're a German river fish. They require food all the way through the year. And I think carp, koi, goldfish, they should be fed as well.
Okay, if I'm going to be feeding my fish in the winter, do you have any recommendations for type of food?
Fish are not going to be doing a lot of growing through the winter. They're cold-blooded, so their bodies are going to slow down. And with that, I would feed a much lower protein diet. Still a quality food, you still want it to be highly digestible, some wheat germ in it to keep the gut healthy. You don't want high protein food sitting in their stomach during colder weather, just not a good idea. And the other thing to remember is that if they don't need the protein at this time of year and you feed it to them, it comes out the other side. And that means that your filter system, which is already suppressed because of the cold weather, now has to break down the excess protein that the fish didn't need that you fed it. So keep your protein levels down, keep the quality of the food, but you know, just be sensible to only feed what the fish actually needs.
That's brilliant. Is there anything I should keep an eye out in the winter?
As always, all through the year, you should really observe your fish. And through the winter, that is just as important. On a cold day, them sitting on the bottom, occasionally lying on their sides, that's perfectly normal. In a lake where carp may be living wild, they may be supported by mud on the bottom, and that will keep them upright. In your pond, they might just list on their sides and very regularly just sit on the bottom. That's nothing to worry about. The time to really observe them is when those fish start moving about. If you have a few fish moving about and some of the others aren't, or if you see fish that are wanting to swim and they're struggling to swim, now's time to do your parasite checks. Especially as weather warms up, parasites can warm up before the fish do. And that means that you really got to be on top of those checks just to make sure that everything's still ticking along just fine. Obviously, there's a lot of opinions about how you bring your fish through the winter. This is just mine. I have been doing this for quite a few years. I'm very happy to take questions. You will get my opinion, but I'm very happy to answer any questions that you might have.